Hey, how you doing? It's Clayton Teeny from the First Home Buyer Club. 100 lessons in 100 days, day 59, lesson 59. Today, what I want to talk about is what you should expect when purchasing a house and land package. So before I get started, I want to give a shout out to Sarah, who we did an amazing strategy session today, and it was really good to talk about her personal finances, where she's currently sitting, savings wise, and how much she has the ability of putting in savings, so that when we do find her the perfect house and land package, that it does complement her actual lifestyle and they're not having to worry about money that they don't currently have. All right, so we're going to get it started in a couple of things, and I'm going to address a couple of points that we are, especially here at the First Home Buyer Club, getting asked a lot and getting spoken to about. And what we're noticing, which is very alarming at the moment, and I don't know if it's across the board everywhere or it's just around Brisbane, or we're suddenly speaking to a lot of clients that put in this boat. However, we've had numerous people contact us after speaking to and dealing with other companies that are trying to force them to sign contracts on the first appointment, or they have been signing contracts on the first appointment without even talking about finances, just because they thought that's what needs to happen. Now, I'll urge everybody, when you're looking at purchasing your own home, don't go to where someone else is telling you must go, and really explore the best options for you and your family. Because at the end of the day, and we have all our clients talk to, when we speak to our clients, and we always say, everyone, there's two things we won't do. We won't pay your mortgage, and we won't move from the spare room. Now, this is very important to understand, because at the end of the day, when it comes time to purchasing your own home, the only opinion that counts is yours, because you're going to be the one living there, right? So don't at any point just take what you're given just because you weren't given any better options. Really work through the options that you have been presented or that you haven't been presented, and make sure that it's right for it. The other thing is that we're creatures of habit, right? So just because you've lived in one suburb your entire life doesn't mean that the surrounding suburbs, or the suburbs a couple away, aren't good or aren't actually in a position that you'd really enjoy them. Open your mind to the other areas, and really you could probably be buying a really good house and land at a really good price, and it really complement your budget. So the other thing is that I want to talk about is really understanding your finances. So before you buy a house and land, know what it costs. So obviously your principal and interest repayments, then you got rates, water, and insurance that you need to be concerned about. Now, yes, later on down the track, maybe 10, 15 years, you probably have to worry a lot more about the upkeep and renovations, but a brand new home, they're things that you're not going to have to worry about in the short term. So don't stress about it. The other thing is, don't actually stress about the fact you've got to pay rates, water, and insurance, because they're ownership costs, and we get used to them. The home, and we get used to them when we buy a car. It's just costs that come up, and it's generally not as bad as what everyone thinks. So the first thing I'd recommend is you jump on Google, find out how much council rates are and water rates are in your suburb. You can start breaking it down. We always tell our clients just on a ballpark figure, and don't ever kill us if we're a couple of dollars out, but if you plan on allowing $80 a week to cover everything, it should be fine. Unless you get the most expensive insurance out there, and maybe then you might be in a bit of trouble, right? All right, so let's get started. We're going to talk about a few things. Considerations when purchasing a house and land package. So obviously with most people, you'll purchase them as two contracts. You'll have the house contract and the land contract. What tends to happen after that is that when you go unconditional, you'll settle on the land, and then you'll periodically or pay in installments the build contract as the builder completes the home. So in whole, there is 6 invoice payments that the builder will send you, and they go 5% deposit, base stage, frame stage, enclosed or lockup, fixing stage, and practical completion. So you don't when the bank approves you for the money, you don't pay 100% of what you owe from day one. You also don't pay principal and interest repayments during the construction loan, right? So understand this. It's not going to be $1 million. You do need to factor in money for that because you are going to pay rent and have a mortgage, but don't stress out like you're going to have to get 4 jobs just to pay for the construction of the home. Now, obviously, this isn't the rule for every house and land package, because if you buy $1 million home, it's the repayments on that is going to be a lot less than if you buy 400, right? But just so that you know, at $400,000, so if you actually have a $400,000 mortgage, you probably purchase 420, 430, maybe 450, depending on how much deposit you have, and that was interest only repayments at 3.5%. That equate to around $269 and something cents. I don't know the exacts, right? So we always say to everyone, and as a bare minimum, I always encourage that you're contributing at least $200 a week towards savings on top of your rent before you consider buying a home. Because then when you're building the home, you're going to cover that, because at the start, you're only paying interest repayments on the land, and then it slowly goes up to at 100% when it's completed and you're about to get keys, interest only repayments just under $270,000 at 400. Now, what happens is once the last final payment or the practical completion invoice payment is made, generally the following month is when you start paying principal and interest repayments. So that's going to jump up. Be aware there's going to be another jump, but as a result of not having your rental property anymore, it's going to free up all that cash. Now, if you're someone that signed a lease and then decides to buy a home, just because you've got a lease doesn't mean that you can't break it early. But just be considerate of this. If you want your landlord to approve you to get out of that house earlier, it's only fair that they have someone else to replace you and come in, right? So when that's been said, you can't just give them a week's notice saying, hey, we're moving out next week because our house is complete, and then expect them to go, oh, no dramas, well, we'll just keep the mortgage and pay it ourselves. So, it's a really good rule of thumb that you keep the property manager kept up to date with info as it happens. So when you finally get approved for your home, let them know, hey, we've got approved. We're expecting it's going to be roughly whenever the date is. We always say from when you first start to when you get the keys to your new home, plan on about 6 months, because you got the finance period, you got the council period, you got the construction period, and then you've got that 1 to 2 weeks after the house is complete where you got to make the final payment. You've got any touch-ups around the house are going to be completed, and then conduct handover, right? So these are all the things you need to allow for. Now, from when we actually start building, be prepared. It's going to take around 4 months. Now, at the time of the year, like it is right now, we're just about to lead into Christmas. We're November, which November in itself, like it just seemed like yesterday that COVID was kicking off and we're already in November. But being this close to Christmas, all builders and tradies shut over the Christmas period. And as a result, you're probably going to, or you will lose around 3 weeks of construction time where they just stop, right? Everyone needs a break. And when people are building your home, they need those breaks too, because they've been working all year. So, but general contracts tend to go for around a sign in the contract itself, say 180 days on average. So you just need to be aware that even though it says 180 days, like for us, our clients are getting their homes built as long as there's not issues, right? Obviously, the hail damage and cyclones and massive rainfall does delay construction, but generally, on average, it will take roughly around four months once from when we start to when we've completed the home. Now, that doesn't include that little period between practical completion and handover, because that part we can't factor in, right? We have heard horror stories where some building companies will have taken 12 to 15 months. So one thing I'll urge you to do when you sign your build contract and when you're working through it, look for, there's a section after how many days it will take to complete, which it's damages for overtime. So it's like lost days, damages or something, and there will be a compensation daily for what you should get for every day over that 180 days. Now, be mindful of this, right? So if we know if you have a $400,000 mortgage and you on 3.5%, you got to pay roughly around $270 a week. If you saw it was $10 a day, we know that $10 a day is only $70 over a week, and you're going to pay $270. You're going to be out of pocket at least $200. So make sure that figure is adjusted to at least cover the interest repayments so that you're not out of pocket. So at least $50 to $100 depending on what you need to, because you don't want the builder to go over the build time, and you're not getting compensated for what it costs you to just keep it there before it's ready. So be aware of that. Make sure you read that point. And I'm going to put in the notes later so I know I find out exactly what it's called. It's just slipped my memory at the moment, but make sure that's adjusted. So at least have $50 a day, so it's going to cover any repayments that you'll need to make, because the last thing you want is the builder to go overtime and then you're losing money on top. So from practical completion, what happens is that you'll get an opportunity to do a final inspection to make sure that you're happy with the house and everything's good. So during this practical completion inspection, you can go through the house, any marks, any dents, anything that stands out that shouldn't be there. You can go with the site supervisor, put sticking tape up, and they'll go through and fix it out. So what our supervisor does, he actually gets there a couple hours before you'll even be there and goes through and checks out everything that he noticed before you go, so that most things are identified. Now, here's the thing. 100 people could walk through the house and might see one thing different each. So don't get upset if you're walking through and you notice there's a mark there that hasn't been noticed yet. Just bring it to their attention, because they want to make the house perfect just as much as you can, right? We always recommend that you get a building inspector to come out. Generally, those inspectors cost around $300 to $400. You get a full report breaking down room by room of exactly what they see. So you've got a professional looking his eye over. It's just that safety thing, right? More than nothing else, it's just that peace of mind knowing that the house that you've got, there's no issues with it, and you're getting a professional to give their opinion. Not that we ever worry about our builders, because our builders are 100%, but it's just giving that permission to know that everything's good. All right, so a reminder, especially on the lead up to the practical completion inspection, you need to ensure that you have insurance in place to start from the practical completion date, so that from that point on, it's your responsibility, and that if, heaven forbid, the house suddenly burnt down, at least then you're covered, right? The other things you got to be aware of is you got to order your own bins to get to the house, and power, electricity, sorry, that's the same thing, gas, they all need to be transferred or connected in your name before you move into the house, right? So we always make sure that our clients have it transferred in their name at least a week after practical completion, no later, so that you never have to worry about it. Here's the kicker. If you forget to transfer the electricity in your name and the builder cuts it off, then they've got to send someone out to inspect all the power points and go in the house before the power company will switch it on. So it's very important that you switch it over before they cut it. And the last thing is make sure the internet probably takes the longest out of anything. So make sure you have that internet prepared a couple of weeks before, so that when you move in the house, especially if you've got kids, that they're not having to go without internet and just in your ear every day asking you why their internet's not connected. All right, guys, hope you have a really good night. Talk to you soon, and bye.